a moon phase and 478 diamonds for Jaeger-LeCoultre. The luxury and know-how of fine watchmaking on the wrist of the delicious Amanda Seyfried with the sumptuous Dazzling Rendez-Vous Moon. Shimmering mother of pearl for the moon, the starry sky in aventurine and a cloud of guilloched mother of pearl make up the delicate picture of this 36mm dial. All on a diamond bracelet for this watchmaker's jewel, born for the red carpets and which testifies to an expertise recognized throughout history. Amanda Seyfried is certainly one of the most talented actresses of her generation. With her daring choices, she has established herself in the world of cinema, and now she is also the face of precious timepieces from Jaeger-LeCoultre, as we discovered at the International Fine Watchmaking Salon in Geneva. An event in which she showed interest in the delicate work that represents not only the manufacture of complex movements, but also the composition of all the decor of these jeweled dials, born from the hands of real artists. As a perfect example, the Rendezvous model seems created specially for her. A watch that in its variations, the Dazzling Rendezvous Night and Day and the Dazzling Rendezvous Moon, returns to the tradition of fine jewelry and fine watchmaking under the theme of the art of precision. Precision of the design, with the affirmed presence of mother of pearl and diamonds in 3 rows and with the introduction, for them, of their own brand setting. A diamond setting technique on the dial that allows the light to shine all over them for even more brilliance, called rock setting, which makes the metal almost invisible between the stones. Precision of technique too, with the redesign of the Jaeger-LeCoultre 898B and 925A calibers. A mechanical movement with automatic winding and a power reserve of 38 hours complete this homage to femininity, which has existed since 2012 for its first versions, still only for ladies since then. The objective of the Manufacture du Jour was to offer even more precise time, and to do this, their mechanisms are even more refined. The apogee of high-tech watchmaking, here is the Master Grand Tradition Gyro Tourbillon Westminster Perpetual, with a miniaturized tourbillon and whose price is close to €1 million. A piece for connoisseurs, with the sound of the chime of Big Ben as a bonus.
We've created a new Hybris Mechanica watch, so it's part of our collection of grand complications for wristwatches. And it's true that this year, instead of creating something completely new, like we've been doing these past 15 years, we preferred to explore the best of what were in the previous models. Select a little bit of the best from the tourbillon, the best of the minute repeater, the best of the perpetual calendar, and put these functions in a new watch called the Master Grand Tradition Gyro Tourbillon Westminster Perpetual. As the name suggests, this is a piece which has a gyro tourbillon, which is an emblematic complication of Jaeger-LeCoultre, a minute repeater with a Westminster chime, something that will play the melody of Big Ben in London, plus a perpetual calendar that's brand new, in the sense that it can be adjusted forward and also backwards. This gives the user a lot of opportunity to use this watch.
As early as 2002, Jaeger-LeCoultre watchmakers had set themselves the challenge of creating a tourbillon that would evolve along several axes. The Master Gyro Tourbillon 1 was born in 2004. With its rotations in 3 dimensions, this tourbillon fascinates. It has to be considered as a gyroscopic regulator, which increases the chronometric performances of the watch.
Absolutely not. It's a tourbillon when it's reinvented for a wristwatch, so 3-dimensional, unlike the classic tourbillon, which only worked in vertical positions, when it's created to have the greatest possible precision. That is to say that we use extremely light materials, so that the energy is dedicated to the precision and not to the function of rotation of the tourbillon. And when it's coupled with other mechanisms, like for example a constant force, which gives it a constant energy, so that there's the maximum of precision, one arrives at levels of precision which are much better than a classic watch. And so our tourbillons have a performance that is far superior to classic watches, which shows that not only is the tourbillon fascinating, it's amazing to watch, but in addition, it's a little bit like the Formula One of chronometry. We attain a precision which is largely superior to the classical models, not equipped with three-dimensional tourbillons.
Among the tourbillon models, here is the Master Ultra Thin Tourbillon Enamel, a model limited to 50 copies, while its variations with the moon phase are limited to 100 pieces, and the same goes for the Master Ultra Thin Perpetual Enamel. At the Haute Horlogerie show in Geneva, Jaeger-LeCoultre also unveiled two boutique exclusives: the Reverso Tribute Small Seconds, with its sleek design and deep wine red color, and the Reverso Tribute Duo Face Fagliano Limited, with a case in rose gold and a Casa Fagliano bracelet made of stitched cordovan leather, handmade in two intense blues, limited, as the name suggests, to 100 pieces. New women's versions of the Reverso One Duetto attracted many fans with the elegance of their bracelets with a brilliant finish. A jewel watch that stands out with a brilliant cut diamond frieze on either side of its case, the Duetto concept. Not to mention the double play of the hands animated by one and the same movement, the Jaeger-LeCoultre Caliber 844. With its reversibility system, the Reverso remains the standard of the manufacturer. An icon of Art Deco, it's still in demand. Who doesn't know the history of this emblematic model from the Swiss brand, born in 1931 in a British polo club in full colonial India? With its protected watch glass, it's a model robust enough to withstand the shocks caused during polo matches. Soon, the popularity of the model exceeded the boundaries of sport.
The link is that all these models have existed for a long time. We have lines that have survived decades, reinventing themselves regularly. So we have the Reverso, which was created in 1931 and is one of the watches that is still very successful today. So we see that despite all the changes of generations, despite the changes in fashion, the Reverso has something unique in its design, in its function, and that allows generation after generation to create incredible things, whether at the level of the mechanism, which will be lodged inside, or functions which will be expressed on both sides, or master crafts that can be used to decorate the Reverso, be it engraving or miniature enamel. There's always something to discover, and finally, it's an extraordinary piece in the sense that we can do everything, as long as it's inside the Reverso, as long as it's in this small frame. And finally, having a watch with a very strong character, it gives us a chance for creativity.
Ça permet de laisser place à la créativité.
The Jaeger-LeCoultre factory is above all a story and a history of watchmaking with a large H, the history of the first watches and their movements.
In fact, the most impressive thing is to imagine that over 100 years ago we created ultra-flat movements, as you mentioned, which are 1.38 millimeters thick. So it's a thickness which, even today, is practically impossible to reach. That we managed to create the Caliber 101 in 1929, which remains today the smallest mechanical movement in the world. So for almost 90 years, nobody has managed to make smaller than that. And this caliber, not only was it small, but in addition, it had a high frequency, the first high-frequency caliber in the history of fine watchmaking, for a worn watch. And in addition, they had worked out how to lay the crown not on the side, but on the back of the watch, to precisely emphasize the elegance of the watch. So it's both small, innovative, and in a spirit of doing something that is both powerful and very accurate. And of course, there is the Atmos. And the Atmos is still an incredible clock. 80 years ago, they invented the perpetual movement, and it inspired not only watchmaking, but perhaps other sectors that could follow the example of its mechanism. To see how we can get a watch to work by drawing on an energy that's renewable. For example, the change in temperature for the Atmos, which then gives a never-ending autonomy to a mechanical movement.
Consistently creating fine watchmaking masterpieces, movements, and ever more complex mechanisms, but most of all, easy-to-use watches, without additional tools and with little maintenance. This is the main challenge for the Jaeger-LeCoultre house for the next decades to come.